She's over me. The claws in my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart, controlling me, controlling me. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm absolutely thrilled you guys are here with me. Thank you so much, guys. It's always a real pleasure to be here. And I got some stories lined up, some ideas, some thoughts. And I hope you're all ready because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now underway here on the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm still Brent Thomas, in case you didn't catch that before. Thought I'd throw it back out there, but I just want to say it's been really cool because we're getting a whole lot of new subscribers, and I'm sure it's by virtue of being on Sasquatch Chronicles recently. That was really awesome. It's been a real pleasure to meet a lot of you new people. Those of you that have messaged me and said hello. I'm really honored that you came to check out the channel, and that those of you who have said so have been enjoying the Paranormal Portal, and that to me means the world. So it's a real pleasure to meet you all, and thank you for becoming part of the Paranormal Portal family. And of course, to all of our regulars, thank you guys for being here. You guys are the spine of this machine. There's no question about it. You guys are definitely the heartbeat of what goes on around here. So thank you all. But we are doing intelligent haunts tonight. Now, by virtue of that, it's something that we discussed on the Chronicles, Sasquatch Chronicles the other day, and it's the idea that there's two major types of hauntings: residual and intelligent haunts. And when we cover ghost stories, ladies and gentlemen, 99% of them are truly intelligent haunts. Now, that doesn't mean that a location couldn't have both. It certainly could have residual impressions, and it certainly could still have intelligent entities, whether they were human or not. It's not either one or the other. It can be both, but a lot of times you can whittle down what's going on in a place pretty quickly to either intelligent or residual. But it's not that it can't be both as well. It's just that with residual haunts, you really don't have anything to worry about because it's just a replay. It's just a recording of sorts, a psychic recording. It's based on the stone tape theory of parapsychology and stuff. And basically that is that the objects around you can store energy. They can hold energy, and they can store energy in the form of events. It can store energy in the forms of certain behaviors that may have been repeated consistently. There's a lot of things that can create those energies. One story that we covered a while ago that I thought was really interesting, and that was that, and I'd never heard of this before, but this was there was a woman who was pregnant with her child, and they lived in a home, and her husband was in the military and had to go, I believe, to Iraq, and she was getting close to term, and she got the letter or the visit saying, we're sorry, but your husband has died in combat. And of course, what a crushing blow. I mean, that's about as terrible a news as you could hope to ever receive. Here they were preparing to start a family and preparing to have this new life together. And that's obviously not the way it worked out. Well, the woman went into this horrible period of mourning and depression and stuff. And she said that oftentimes, because she was so pregnant, she would just kind of lean up against the kitchen sink and just cry and just melt, her emotions and stuff. Well, eventually, time passed. She did end up having the child, and they did end up moving away. Her and her kids or kid did end up moving to another house. And what happened was the next people that owned the house started experiencing this apparition of a very pregnant woman leaning against the sink, crying in the middle of the night, and they couldn't understand what was going on. But it was a really wild kind of case where it doesn't necessarily involve somebody dying. These impressions can be left by the living, and they may begin to repeat, in not a long stretch of time. So some of these hauntings, residual, can be people that are still around, and it's just some kind of, maybe it's the emotional dump of such a tragedy that she, pushed out all that energy and all that pain, and that pain stayed there in the form of this residual apparition, which leans against the sink and cries. And what a tragic story, but it is really interesting, and I'd never heard of that before. So I think that's pretty impressive and pretty amazing. But anyway, good to see you all. Let me see. I don't know if this participants thing is going to work or not, but I see that Julia is here. Duke is here. Good to see you, Duke. Diane Swiger, Deb Varner, Gentry Coda, Haxer, Lady Death, Pam Edgerton. I'm here. Sarah is here. Terrestrial Mac and Zero Mind. And if I missed somebody, now there was a guy in there that I saw was named Frank, and I don't know why he's not on this list. So I'm sorry if this list isn't complete. I don't know what the hell's wrong with that, but I try to reach out and let you guys know, because I do appreciate when you're here. Oh my gosh, there's Zara. Hi Zara, how you doing, my dear? Good to see you. And ladies and gentlemen, Zara is from Germany, and she does a lot of work with ITC, instrumental transcommunication, and she does some amazing tarot readings as well. Zara, it's awesome to see you. Of course, I'm thrilled that you're here. We've missed you, but welcome. Yeah, thanks, Duke. Give that like button a smack for sure. And, it's not just self-serving and stuff. It actually does allegedly cause YouTube to suggest videos with a higher like count. And so you're doing us a favor if you hit the like button. Unless you don't like it, then hit the don't like button. Because apparently, according to YouTube's algorithm, they don't care if it's a like or a dislike. It's just some kind of interaction. So either way, but of course, I hope you like what you're seeing. So the first story I want to read to you tonight, guys, is the longer one that we opened several nights ago. Now this one is not that one. Wait a minute. Which one is it? No, this one is not that one either. My God, I had this really, really long one, and it's disappeared on me. Okay, well, I apologize, but I'll I'll read these. Let me pull up some more, though, as long as I'm at it. I thought that one was going to take a while, but it's apported on me. It's apported away. And if you're not familiar with the term apport, it's when things appear usually, but I guess the deport is what it is. And when things mysteriously disappear, believed to be paranormal activity causing it, it's called a deport. And if things appear in strange places and things you've never seen before, it's called an apport or aport. I guess however you want to pronounce that. Let's see here. All right, that's one. There's another one, and there's another one. So let me get into these. Oh, that one sounds cool. There's one that has to do with Six Flags Amusement Park. That one should be cool. All right, so the first one, ladies and gentlemen, is coming out of Pennsylvania. It says, for as long as I can remember, I've dreamt mainly of people I don't know. Let's see. Some children, some adults, etc. And they always came just to me, day or night, and would never leave me alone. At first, I didn't know what to make of it all. Maybe I was just over-imaginative, or maybe something was wrong with me. I don't know. I kept seeing death, war, and blood in my dreams, and they really bothered me. It became almost afraid to go to sleep and couldn't get my imaginary friends out of my mind as a child. I didn't really realize it back then that they weren't so imaginary, because neither of my parents were the slightest bit open-minded to spirituality, and still aren't, quite frankly, and no one took what I saw very seriously. My mom thought there was something mentally wrong with me, and my dad was just furious that I was always up late talking to myself, but they just kept coming back. My mom once, when I was about 2 years old, told me she saw me fine 1 minute and the next minute falling down a flight of stairs as though tripped by some invisible force. I often have nightmares about falling now, and I can't remember, but she says I cracked my skull and had to go to the hospital, but strangely, I didn't feel any pain. Not everyone I saw was meaning to cause harm. One ghost in particular, Danny, kept visiting me over and over again. I really did enjoy his company. And when I was about 7, my little sister was born, and that was the time I dreamt of seeing 2 little blonde girls that I had never met. After a few years, my sister told me that she had a lot of imaginary friends of her own, one of which was named Chloe. Chloe visited her the most often, and I, meanwhile, couldn't help but wonder if I was really seeing spirits or ghosts, or if I was just crazy. One day at school, when I was either 12 or 13, the lights started flickering throughout the entire school, and no one but me to this day knows why. I could have sworn I saw some figures phase out of the room from the corner of my eye right before it happened. Objects in my room were never where I left them, and my lights at home keep flickering even after I changed the light bulb, and I didn't think they were imaginary, but wanted to make sure. I soon told my sister how weird it was to see all the lights at school flicker, and she smiled and told me, "Oh, that was just Chloe and her friends, Ellie and Grace." And when she went to describe Chloe's friends, I found those were the girls from my recent dreams. My sister also mentioned Chloe had a brother named Danny, and I was stunned to hear her describe him exactly as I had seen him. Red hair, hazel eyes, about 16 years old, etc. My little sister and I talk a lot about spirits and ghosts now, and I found a lot of protection spells and kept talking to Tiffany, my guardian angel, and she constantly guides, heals, and helps me, and was the reason I didn't feel any pain when I fell down the stairs. Since then, I've been crossing ghosts over, but I have found that once they're crossed over, they aren't always reincarnated. Some come back as spirits. I crossed Danny over, but he still comes to visit me, and my abilities keep getting stronger through practice, and I often set aside time just to meditate, visit the graveyard, etc., whatever it takes. And when I visit the Akashic records, I read that I had always been meant to resolve ghosts' unfinished business. I'm so grateful for this gift and the chance to make a difference. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with the concept of Akashic records, it's basically this universal spiritual knowledge base, and everything's supposedly written there, which is, I don't know what to think about that. Really, is it possible? I guess so. I don't recall seeing the place ever myself, but then again, I don't recall not being alive. So, but some people can go there through deep meditation and stuff, or so they claim, and read of the Akashic records. So, it's a really interesting phenomenon if you're interested in it. I probably can't do justice to try to explain it, but there's so much information out there about it. I'm sure you can find something that will satiate your desire to understand it. But that's as well as I understand it. But a cool story. I think being sensitive has got to be, being able to see and talk with spirits, I think is just an incredible thing. I just think that's wonderful. I mean, think about it, that you could talk to somebody who'd been alive and could see the world from those eyes. There's a lot of belief that spirits are completely telepathic. So essentially, when a spirit is there, they know what you're thinking. They know what you're not saying. They know what you're hiding. It's all just an open book because it's all based upon energy, I think. My theory about that is that, our root is energy. We are not a root of a physical frame that we're, moving around this plane of existence. We are an energetic core which connects infinitely to the entire universe. I mean, there's no real separation between us and anything else except in our minds. We're shut away from everything else by virtue of our belief in separation. But it's just really neat to think, these psychic people that have that gift can just have conversations. They can talk to these deceased people. Oh, you leaving, Zara? Okay. All right. Love you, dear. Thanks for coming in. It's good to see you. Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah. Brian, Duke Sullivan in the chat room says Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, was allegedly reading the Akashic records as well. So, which is pretty phenomenal, rather. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, that's good to see Zara. And she's been a friend of the show forever. Just a wonderful, wonderful friend. Unfortunately, she's in Germany and I'm over here. So all of our lives are on opposite ends of the clock. So I don't get too much opportunities to say hello to her. But yeah, it's good. It's good to see so many faces and familiar faces and new faces from time to time here in the chat room. Duke, by the way, I did message you in MeWe, so check it out and respond to me when you can, please. Just a thought. Just let me know if that's possible or not. All right, so that was the first story, and I think a really good one. I like that one quite a bit. Oh, my God, I got to get a drink. We're coming to spring, but I'm just so dry lately. And the call-in board is open, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got something you want to share with us here on the show, please feel free to call in. The number is 720-923-0500. So if you've got something you'd like to share, please share. Because, it's always wonderful to hear from you guys. And it makes the show so much fun that we now don't have to have those degrees of separation anymore. We can all just talk when you got something to say. All right, so hold on a sec. There we go. All right, sorry about that. All right, so the next one is from Missouri, or rather, Missouri. I was in the 3rd grade when this had happened to me, and quite frankly, I will never forget it. I was in class and needed to use the restroom, so I asked for permission from the teacher and went downstairs to the bathroom. And when I walked in, as I was passing the stalls, I caught out of the corner of my eye a black shape about the same size as me. I was absolutely terrified. I stopped and went to look back, and there was nothing there. I left immediately. A week or so later, I went with my class to wash our hands for lunch, and I had to go to the bathroom, so I went into the first stall while everyone else went to lunch, and I could see the floor in the stall next to me, a pair of tennis shoes and jeans, and I thought it was my buddy, so I reached out with my foot to to kick at his foot, and just messing around. And I kept reaching out, but could never get to the foot. And I looked back under once more to find nothing there. And I'd been in the bathroom by myself the whole time. Soon after having these experiences, I started seeing more and more, but not just at school, at home as well. I lived with my mom and little brother, and we had been in the house for a few months or so, and I started hearing whispers and seeing both black and white images floating in and out of the bedrooms, but always disappearing at the doorways. Then one night I was laying in bed trying to go to sleep when all of a sudden I felt like something was laying on me and I couldn't breathe. My mom came in and tried to help me, and she prayed with me and gave me the Bible to keep under my pillow, and whatever it was left me alone for the night, but seeing the shadows continued. A couple of months ago, my mom had to have a surgery on her neck, so we had to move in with my aunt and uncle. And I swear this thing or things moved right along with me. I'm still seeing the shadowy figures and hearing things. Is it possible for something to follow you? But that's what I feel like is happening. I'd really like to tell it to leave me alone, but for some reason, I don't think that's going to help. Any suggestions? Well, the first suggestion is, it's very possible that this person is a sensitive, that they are able to, coming into the ability to see spirits. And so while to them it's like something followed him or her, I guess the first name is, it's a man's name or a boy's name. So it's just perhaps that sensitivity is now available to them, and no matter where they go, they're going to be seeing these things. And quite honestly, I believe that we are really and truly swimming in a sea of spiritual, beings. I think that most of them will always lie beyond our understanding or our perception, that they're just different kinds of energies, that they don't operate in the same manner that we do. So, perhaps they're part of just the function of this realm or this existence. But others of them, of course, would be, perhaps displaced spirits, perhaps just energies moving. And the thing is that spirits are energy. So when people talk of flashes of light and stuff like that, they are more than likely perceiving energy in some form. Now, is it always a spirit? No, it's not, because the fundamental element of all things is energy, including the walls, the floors, the breeze. Everything has an energy to it. And so a sensitivity to energy in the form of visual perception could mean you're seeing, the building blocks of the projection that we live in, for lack of a better term. And it doesn't matter what you call it. If you want to call it a matrix, if you want to call it the illusions, if you want to call it whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all semantics, really. But I believe we have so much more ability than what we're normally perceiving. And some people, like these psychics, are just naturally turned on, or perhaps something turned on their ability through their development, or some event, some trauma, some, whether physical or emotional or whatever, but led them to tap into more of these abilities that we all have, but for most of us lie or seem to lie just out of reach. So, but very powerful stuff. So I don't think this person experienced things following him as much as he just experienced more of the same stuff wherever he went. So it's not necessarily something, trailing him, but I guess it's all a matter of perception. Just my 2 cents, for whatever that's worth. All right, so anything going on? Oh, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, good to see you. And anyone else come in? Orange County Girl, good to see you. Looking through the list quick. Taz, good to see you. I think that's pretty much everyone that I didn't see before. Oh, Virginia, good to see you, Virginia. Welcome to the show. Continuing. I don't know. I guess that's as many as I can see for right now. But the next one is coming out of Indiana. And this one's a little bit longer, but hopefully good. I grew up in a house that was over 100 years old. So did I. I didn't grow up in one of those houses, but I used to have one. They are beautiful. It had been built from a pre-existing barn, so it was surely older than that. And while I was growing up, my babysitter would mention that our house was creepy and that they'd heard strange noises late at night before my parents came home. I had accepted that the doors opening by themselves and windows was strange. Unexplained noises were just things that happened in an old house. And my opinion changed as I grew older. One morning when I was about 16 or 17 years old, I was sitting on my bed looking out the windows of my room when out of the corner of my eye, I saw a woman standing there looking at me. She wore a long dress with poofy sleeves and her hair was pulled back in a bun of some kind, and then I turned to look at her. She was gone. Once I heard a woman whisper my name in my ear. Thinking it was my mom home from work, I turned around, but no one was there. I would also clearly hear footsteps coming down the hall, into my room, and stop right next to me. Unsettling, I also heard what sounded like women laughing downstairs. I was alone in the house, and I mentioned this to my mom, but laughed it off, and my self-doubt changed one summer night when my friends were over. Excuse me. I told my mom and some friends about what I was hearing and seeing, and my mother actually told me that she believes me and said that I was lucky for experiencing something so special. I'd grown used to the lady and would sometimes talk to her when I was alone, and it made me feel stupid, but I always felt like she was close and listening. She felt really motherly to me, comforting, and it felt like she was watching over us. I remember asking her to help me find a missing soccer ball, and I had looked all over my room at least 3 times, and I was going through the whole house when out of desperation I said, "Lady, could you please help me find my ball?" I chuckled under my breath and thought that I must be going insane, but when I went up to my room, there it was, sitting in the middle of my bed. I couldn't believe it. I would catch her peeking in my room to check up on me sometimes, I guess. I never told my sister about the lady. She was 12 at the time, and I didn't want to scare her. And it turned out that she had also met the lady, and my sister hadn't shared my feelings. My girlfriend at the time and some other friends were over one night, and we had the lights out and were watching a movie called The House. It was a cheesy ghost movie, and the movie was about a guy that inherits his grandmother's house, and it's haunted, she says, and tells him to leave. She is standing on a chair with a noose around her neck, and she then disappears. She was wearing a long black dress, and her hair was pulled back in a bun. My sister instantly started crying, hysterically. The lady. I looked at her, and immediately it dawned on me. She must have seen the lady, too. It sent a shock through me because now I couldn't deny the reality of what I was experiencing. Later, I gently asked my sister what she had seen or heard, and she told me of seeing a woman in a long black dress walking across her room and disappearing. She'd even heard the sound of the woman's dress brushing the floor. This was incredible. I wasn't crazy. I had assumed the whole time that it was just my imagination. Some of my friends became obsessed with trying to see or hear the lady, and they'd come over when my parents were out, and we would sit in my room being very quiet, trying to hear something. I don't remember anything happening that wasn't explained as something normal. And one night we made a Ouija board. Ruh-roh. And the story turns, ladies and gentlemen. And out of an old mirror that I'd found in the basement. Wow, that's a really poor idea. So, mirrors are mystical objects too, ladies and gentlemen, and there are many cultures that believe that they are can be gateways for spirits. So to make a Ouija board on a mirror, oh man, that's like double trouble. We used pieces of paper and a shot glass, and the glass started moving around answering our questions, and it gave us a name of AJ for the name of the lady, and it spelled out what she knew me. It spelled out that she knew me and that she died from pneumonia in the 1800s. I can't remember all the details, and I should have written everything down, but in the back of my mind, I suspected one of my friends was just pushing the glass anyway, and I let them freak each other out, and I knew that the lady would never harm any of us in any way, and I wished that I had researched the history of the house to see if there had ever been an AJ associated with it. I graduated from high school and moved out of my childhood home, and I felt the sadness and guilt. I wasn't only leaving my parents behind, but also the lady. And I never felt her after I'd left. She is probably still there, and my parents have since divorced and moved away, and sometimes when I come back to my hometown, I go by to see the old house. It sat vacant for a very long time, and I would look in the front room windows and remember Christmases and birthday parties, and I swear that I felt her staring back at me from the other side of the glass. I hope that the new family living there now has a small child and that the lady can watch over and help him find their toys. That's cool. Excuse me. All right, so Julia, you're so sweet. I love that so many people are pushing for likes. That's awesome. Thank you guys. And welcome to all 38 of you that are here. If you want to call in and be a part of the show again, the phone lines are open. It is 720-923-0500. The number, of course, is on the show tile on your screen. Look under the Chrome Paranormal Portal logo on the top left-hand side, and that is the call-in number there. And I got to remember to blow that up because you nearly need reading glasses to see it. I don't know. It looked bigger when I was doing it, but it didn't turn out that much bigger. So anyway, yeah, feel free to call in if you have something you'd like to share. All right, the next one is coming out of New Jersey. New Jersey, ladies and gentlemen, eh? Quit busting my chops. My boyfriend and I went to Six Flags. Oh, this is the Six Flags one. Great Adventure amusement park yesterday, and when we came back to wait for our bus in the parking lot, we were early, so we decided to watch King da Ka and the Superman coasters to take some pictures. I don't know. King da Ka must be a roller coaster, I guess. After taking pictures, we were leaning on a white plastic division blocker for cars, and when my boyfriend kept looking next to him while we were talking, and then from out of the corner of my eye, I saw some young white dude in an age of about 17 to 23 years old, about 6'1", standing next to me. He had a curly red or brownish afro and was wearing a red shirt, like a red, black, and white lumberjack shirt. I don't know. I asked my boyfriend if he saw someone standing next to me, and he said, "No, but I saw someone sitting next to me." Come to find out, we actually saw the same guy. He described him with blue jeans and an old black and white Converses and a red shirt. Something you would wear in the 80s or 90s, old school gear. So today I found this on the web, and in August 16th, 1981, 20-year-old park employee Scott Tyler of Middleton fell from the Rolling Thunder, and 8 teenagers who died in the haunted house fire in 1984. And I know there are many more deaths, probably, and I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Scott Tyler, but I need a pic of him to tell. But whoever it was, I know they were a ghost and won't be forgotten by me. I look forward to seeing them again at Fright Fest. Since the ghost didn't threaten us, it just seemed to be hanging out like it was just chilling. For if it was him, Scott Tyler, I kind of understand why he was next to us. I'm 21 and my boyfriend is 22, and we're around the same age as he was when he died. Yeah, that's tough. And yeah, there's the unfinished business idea, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people believe that, unfinished business, a young death, a young tragic death, of course, may leave a spirit in a state of limbo. Or maybe he just loved the park, Maybe that was his happy place. That was his favorite place. You never know. Excuse me. Had to wet the whistle. All right. So what is next? Oh, this one is okay. So this is another Ouija board one. Recently, I went on vacation, and during the week that I was away, my friend Paige cared for my cat, dog, and house. And a few days ago when I came back, Paige came over to hang out. And she brought up that 2 days after we left, Paige came to my house and the radio and the TV upstairs were both on, blasting music and sound. She didn't leave either of them on the day before, and neither did we when we left. I don't own a Ouija board, but we searched how to make your own Ouija board and found a good website, and we followed the steps using a magnifying glass as the pointer, and I was really skeptical at first because it just wasn't a real Ouija board. We asked, "Is anyone there?" For the first second, nothing happened. But then it started to shake and slowly move to yes. I looked at Paige, but I could tell by her face that she wasn't moving it. And I most certainly wasn't as well. Plus, there's a difference when you are moving it and a ghost is, or whatever we were talking to. It told us his name, it was Ron, and he has a sister named Agatha, and he died in a fire. We were getting different dates every time, and it was hard to understand them. The real question was, were we really talking to someone? Since we used the Ouija board, other things had been happening. Not just the usual, the other night I was laying in bed and it felt like someone was sitting on the bed. I looked to see if it was my dog or cat, and it wasn't. I could see the imprint of someone sitting there. I was doing my hair in the mirror and I heard the bed creak, like someone was getting on it, and I looked again. No one was there. Also, I got a charm bracelet while on vacation, and I would put it on my wrist so that I could hook it myself. But every time I got close to the clasp, it would fall, which would make no sense. And finally, I expected maybe the ghost, if there is one, was doing it. And I said, "Stop it, please." And the next time I tried, I got it on. Also, I bought two necklaces the other day at the mall, and both of them broke without explanation. The chain would crack, and I wasn't sure why this was happening. Is it because I threw out the makeshift Ouija board? Does anyone know how a Ouija board works or why this is happening? It hasn't been anything serious yet. Okay, here's the thing. So some people have the idea that if you buy a Ouija board, that's a real Ouija board. And I'm here to tell you that in pretty much every ritualistic practice, making your own anything is going to make it so much more powerful. And to create a stronger connection, because the idea is that you're fabricating it with your own energy. You're imbuing it with your energy. And so there creates an instant resonance. Now, a Ouija board out of the box from the store doesn't have any resonance. It's just a piece of cardboard with a decoration on it. And so there is a huge difference between making your own and buying one. And the difference is the one you make is already attuned to your energy. So don't think that if it's not bought, it's not powerful. It's actually quite the reverse. Many more ritualistic practices have the person create things. They don't go to, this is going to sound cheesy, but I really kind of mean this, is that they don't go to like Diagon Alley and pick out a wand. It's like if you want a wand, you create it, you make it, you put on it the things that you feel resonate with your energy. That's how that stuff works. So a created Ouija board is going to be much more attuned, and you'll probably get much better results with that than you ever will from a store-bought one. Not that you couldn't attune a store-bought one, but my point is that when you created it, it's already, manifest through your energy and through your intention, and every part of it. So I don't know if that makes sense or if that's information you wanted or don't want, but I'm just sharing it with you guys. But the thing with Ouija boards, and we discuss it periodically on the show. Now, some people hear the term Ouija board and they think, "Oh, stay the hell away from those. Those are from Satan." Oh, yeah, I can check the portal line. Thank you very much for asking. Oh, it's Mr. Sean. Hello. All right, let me answer this. This is our good friend. Did I mute you again? My mouse is doing weird stuff. I'm trying to unmute it, but it's like an old mouse. Sorry there, Sean?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. It was
muted and unmuted itself 4 times.
Well, my mouse, I got this wireless mouse that I've had for years, and I finally hooked it up to the portal computer, and it's an older mouse, and apparently it's kind of got a mind of its own. So, but let me just state this before we go into what you're saying. But the difference also, ladies and gentlemen, with a Ouija board is that they're a blind channel, and that's where the risk of it. They're not inherently evil in and of themselves. They're just another oracle or method of communicating. And 99% of the people, 99% of the time, will have absolutely nothing real profound happen. But in the one time that you do, you have to understand a blind channel has no direction. So you're just opening and saying, "Come through us to communicate." Well, you don't know what the hell's coming through. So I do caution people against using them if they don't know what they're doing. And I take real issue with whether it's Parker Brothers or whoever the hell makes them that recommends them for ages 8 and up. That to me is just like, oh my God. But anyway, welcome to the show, Sean. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I thought since the subject was intelligent haunts, I'd have a couple of says on that. But what you were saying is also really quite true, especially about making the Ouija boards. Most people don't know the Enfield haunting. The girls actually made their own what they called spirit boards out of cardboard, and that was right before everything took off. And for anybody who doesn't know about the Enfield hauntings, that's the one with the ghosts that were talking through the girls, throwing things around, making cameras unable to take pictures. It was in a council house in England, 1977. Truly fantastic. They literally made sure that nothing was caught except for the sounds of what was going on. And this started with the girls getting close to their about to become women. Their first menses is usually related to this. And then, of course, fiddling around with their own spirit boards, which wasn't bought from Parker Brothers.
Right.
There's something to be said about when you make your own stuff, just as you were saying. But there's also something to be said about making things to task, to the way that you need them to be. If they're made in the design that you like, or from the materials that resonate with you. You and I were talking about that, remember, with the oak. Yep,
exactly. Yep.
That's important.
Very good.
Now, somebody had asked about the intelligent haunting. Why is it different? Well, it's easier to communicate. The more intelligent the thing that you're talking to, the more capable it is of speaking. For instance, what the thing was that was in your home, just to give it an example, that one comes close to intelligent because it was able to communicate with its desires. It was trying to send them at you, but you couldn't pick it up. But I could, because it was just all kinds of hungry. It wanted stuff. It wanted you to do things that you were not inclined to do. And that's one form that I think that would be empathy, being able to pick up that kind of thing. But then they can also talk. Some of them can literally tell you what they need or what they feel or what they see or how they hurt. And one of the worst examples I'd encountered was one of the ladies who used to be on our channel had gone to a home where the whole house was unwelcoming. And she said, "I feel something in the bathroom." And I said, "Well, turn on the camera." And she turns on the camera and hooks it to the Wi-Fi for the apartment complex. And I said, "There's a lady standing there half naked, covering herself and bleeding from the wrists."
Oh.
and she couldn't see it. Now, this lady's a medium. Her abilities are when you close your eyes. Mine are when my eyes are wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady was screaming at her to get out, and then that they'd taken her child, etc. And that actually led her to being able to work with another medium to find out, to find where the child had gone, so that they could then give the information to her and let her move on.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know that the child was okay. She had committed suicide when they'd taken the child away from her. So intelligent hauntings are a lot more. They're a lot more chatty and a lot less punch throwing. If you know what I mean?
Like you can have a dialogue, which is important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they'll also show you images too, in case there's something that they want you to know, or about the environment, or there's something that scares them. They can either point it out, or they'll hang around the person that needs to be protected. It's a thing, especially with some of the spirits that protect the home, like we discussed, the Domovoy, Domoven. Those creatures specifically live or exist just to protect, and they will communicate, whether through empathy, example, or even getting you to stop going into a room or stop doing a specific thing. If they don't like that you're doing something, like riding roller skates in the house, they'll make the roller skates disappear, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And the thing is, a lot of times, do you find, because what I'm seeing as a trend, a lot of times when you have a real intelligent haunt, and for most of us, we seem to get most of our information in the dream state, and I believe that that's because when people are the most receptive to that kind of communication, and spirits can certainly insert their intention that way to get their message across. Do you find that that's also true?
It's either that, or when they're first falling asleep, or when they're just waking up.
Sure. Okay.
And it can sometimes lead to sleep paralysis when you're first waking up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a problem for some people, because then the message gets muddled in fear and the hallucinations that can come with that state.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I find most interesting about myself is I'm not a person who's ever suffers from sleep paralysis. On the other hand, I am a person who has on more than one occasion gotten up and walked around while dreaming.
Oh,
and
okay.
More than once.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually a much more rare thing to find in a gifted person. More people usually either sleep dead away, or they will have paralysis events, but I don't. I've actually gotten up and done things, including cooked, gone to the restroom, and thought it was all a dream, including getting up to go to the restroom after not being allowed to get near the toilets after a stay at Disneyland.
Sure.
And it was like 3:00 in the morning, and I walked past my mother, and she says, "What are you still doing up?" And I told her, "I'd go F yourself," because I thought it was a dream. And I didn't know until the following morning. She says, "That was a really rude thing to say to me." I was like, "Oh no, Mom, I was actually sleepwalking." "No, you weren't." Oh, now comes the hard to explain times.
Oh no, that's good. Well,
you can't say you're sorry enough for that.
No, I'm sure, and I'm sure that she probably made you try. So that's you could get it out there at least. I don't know, for what it's worth, but yeah, I think that the intelligent haunts are of course quite interesting, and oftentimes one of the things that I find people are curious about the most is what, and you're a great person to ask about this. And ladies and gentlemen, Sean is one of the psychics that is involved in helping a bunch of people who've contacted the portal for help with a disturbing haunting or experiences that were going on. And he and his great friend Joel and Diane as well, and Deb, have been just amazing to extend themselves to help people that need it. But what I wanted to ask you is what do you find is usually, or is there such a thing? What is usually the reason for haunts? If you were to nutshell that, or is that possible to put in a nutshell?
The one thing that I found that's the most common, the very most common, is sadness. and it
Okay.
can come. No matter what, it's always it's the sadness of either. I wasn't there when I wanted to be, or I had to move on because it was, my time came early because I didn't do things I should have done, or didn't take care of my health, or I don't want to move on because I still have family members that I'm watching after. That's a great one with my grandfather. He
Right.
literally fought his way back to life twice to do that, and but it's usually sadness, and the whatever the sadness is, whatever it comes from, is not as it's not as germane as the fact that it is sadness that causes that. It's a sense of longing because they didn't do enough, or they didn't feel they'd done enough, or they didn't get enough things done, and now it's a sense of purpose that keeps them in place. I rarely find that it's anger. I rarely find that it's revenge. Those kind of hauntings usually don't. If they're intelligent, they usually don't communicate. They usually are something stalking and anchored either to a position, to a place, to or rarely to a person. But that video that you put up of that one prison, that room was a time that I think it was the third video, was a room that was literally out of time. And the women were the longer they were in it, the faster they were becoming acclimated to the resonance of that time. And those things were then going to attach themselves to her, and they were all very sad.
Oh, I can imagine.
All those inmates. It was just pervasive sadness.
Yeah, and of course, hospitals, prisons, and some other places where a lot of chemicals are used. Those are certainly hot spots, I would think, for that kind of haunting or presences.
Yeah, the rarest kind of intelligent haunting is usually the ones that they call the monks. And I actually had to ask a lot of people before I could finally get an answer. Sonia's father, who's very gifted, she's one of the people on our channel, he had to explain it to us. Now, throughout England, you hear about, oh, well, there's this monk in this castle, or this monk in that area, and this monk is here, and this monk there, and this monk there. In fact, one of the places that Bram Stoker wrote into his novel Dracula was, I believe, Whitby was the name of it, with the stone steps going up to an old castle or an abbey, and there's a monk that's seen there all the time, and they actually caught it on camera. Now, why are these monks always appearing? And these monks are appearing throughout all of England because monks used to travel around being educated enough to solve minor problems, like fix that roof, or help with this wall, or they would dig this well, or treat these people who are sick, or whatever. That's what they did. They literally went from town to town, and so they're still doing it. And that is, now, aside from sadness, you have this kind of purpose, and they don't do anything wrong. They don't hurt anybody. They don't menace anybody. It's kind of strange because they always seem to be dark. But I guess that's because of the clothing they wore, and that's what they're affecting even in death. And so they continue to do that sort of thing. And so you'll see them all over England. And I think they're still out there trying to help people. I don't know how, but they definitely are doing their best to try, because they appear everywhere.
Well, let me ask you about these things, and then another phenomena that comes up quite often, and in a disturbing amount of times. I've heard of this phenomena, but a lot of times people will be asleep, and I don't think it's just the traditional shadow people, but I'm not sure what it is. It seems like almost some kind of nefarious interdimensional spiritual being, but what people experience is they will be asleep in their bed and wake up and see these robed, hooded figures standing around them and talking in a language that people don't understand, but they seem to be spiritual in that they're not necessarily solid, and they oftentimes will just be gone, or but they just seem like what would you imagine a real dark wizard to look like, or something. And so do you have any input on that? Because that's one I've been personally curious about for a long time.
That's like the fifth or sixth version of a shadow person. They're not fixed to a spot. They travel to follow the strongest people. They look for things to feed on, and that usually means interest in a particularly bright person or one who has a lot of light to give or energy to give, and that they can feed off of them. And that person probably shouldn't have woken up at that moment. They may have been putting a seal on them. And this is something that I've found that happens not very often, but often enough that when you look at the person, they'll either have something embedded within them, or they'll have a seal put over one or more of their chakras, and that's usually used as a means of directly accessing either what they're thinking, how they're feeling, their emotional state, or their energy. Basically, it's think of it as a high-tech version of stealing data off of somebody's computer, and that's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So those
guys are the most dangerous of the bunch.
Right. That's my experience too. I mean, I have not experienced that phenomenon directly, but just as I'm studying these things and coming across them, it's like, well, what the hell are those things? That doesn't sound good at all. Something really dark is going on there.
And as for where they come from, I haven't had a chance to actually chase one down. To be able to do that, I would need to be near one and then be able to follow it. The closest thing I've been able to do is see through another psychic's eyes, and they, what's her name from Dead Files, Amy Allen, because she's sensed this kind of people before. And the problem is that she doesn't pick up very much because she usually is limited to the input that she gets that is on this plane, since she can't follow their trail back off of this plane. That's why my next show is going to be actually about planes that butt up onto ours and how they connect. Being able to follow that thread back to where they come from would tell you what they're doing and for what reason. And she's good at being able to undo what they're trying to do, or at the very least give an answer to the families. Mm-hmm. But these guys, they're usually there for basically amassing energy and finding potential, I guess you'd say, recruits later. They move to influence the person if they aren't, if they're not wary or able to defend themselves.
Right. I'm sorry. I just I had been interrupted, and I'm trying to catch up on things. But you're right. That I think, and I appreciate your insights, brother. I appreciate you taking the time to come on and discuss those things, because they come up, and especially in dealing with intelligent haunts. Unfortunately, these dark things are plenty intelligent. So I really appreciate.
They're really smart.
Yeah, exactly.
They're really smart, and I also plate their cards close to their chest. They don't usually like to talk. Those are the ones that can, but don't. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's probably going to wrap up our version for tonight of the bedtime stories. I just got a visit during the show too, and it's my little minion saying, "Daddy, dinner's ready." So you're right, Orange County girl. That's exactly what happened. So kudos to you. But thank you so much, brother. I appreciate your call, and I appreciate you taking the opportunity and the time to spread the gnosis with us, because I think the more we understand, the more this is going to make sense. So maybe someday we'll actually figure it all out.
Well, hopefully within our time. Amen. You have a great night, everybody.
All right, brother. Take care, and thanks again for your call. Oh, you hung up already. That guy is quick at disconnecting. Sean has like a black belt in hang up. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you guys being here. It's just a great pleasure. Again, thank you to all the new people who are finding the show. It's wonderful to meet you guys, and I look forward to your participation with the Portal too. If you have a paranormal story of your own that you'd like to share, there's a few options. If you'd rather I read it for you, I'm willing to do that. Just simply email your account to me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to read it on the show, and let me know if you want to be named or if you want to be anonymous. I don't need to name you. It's up to you. Or you can call in during a show night, especially on Friday, Saturday nights when we have open lines and there's no guests. I would love to hear from you guys and hear what you guys have experienced. And as you can tell, I'm just having a ball with this new phone line that we have all the time. We used to only have phones on Friday, Saturday nights when we're connected to the network. And by network, I mean our TFRlive.com, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. Now, the rest of the shows are just on YouTube. And so, when people had things to share, I would definitely save them up for those network shows. But because we had the phone lines. But now we have the phone lines all the time, and our listener base is growing. So whenever you want to share something, ladies and gentlemen, please do. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for checking out the portal and for your support and all the kind messages that I'm getting from all you new people, as well as the people who've been around here since the beginning. So I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and laugh as much as you can. But you guys have a wonderful night, and I'll be back tomorrow night. And it looks like I'm going to have Mr. Duke Sullivan here on the portal tomorrow night of World Bigfoot Radio. He'll be joining me, and we'll be discussing some absolutely cool stuff in terms of cryptids and Bigfoot, Sasquatch, you name it. Duke is one of those incredibly impressive people that walks around. He will forget more about cryptids than I will ever learn in my lifetime. He's just one of those guys. So I hope you guys will tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, here on the Paranormal Portal. You can find us on YouTube. And again, if you're interested in finding us on audio only, you can go to tfrlive.com and you can check it out there and become a member. Or you can go to iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live and look for the Truth Frequency radio channels over there. And that way you can listen to the portal anytime you want. But those are all live shows at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So just so you know, there's options. But I love you guys. Take care. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Please like the stream. And if you love the show, please share it with other people that love the paranormal. We just want to keep this growing. So thank you guys and have a wonderful night.